and retention in Alexa using various skills. In this, we're going to discover how you can make your Alexa skills more engaging using features such as speech cons, polyvolts, etc. And we're also going to discuss best practices for boosting user retention. We're proud to present to you Aariv Modi, who is a blogger, programmer, and an Alexa skill developer. Aariv, the stage is yours. Please take it away.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I really appreciate it. Today, I'll be talking about best practices for engaging skills and also some tips you can use to increase your skills retention. So before I get started, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Aariv Modi. I'm 12 years old and I attend Walsh Middle School in Round Rock, Texas. I've been developing Alexa skills for the past 2 years, and I've published 5 Alexa skills, including my skills STEM Party, Word Party, and Wheel of Fun. I've been a speaker at global conferences, including Project Voice and Voice Global 2020, and I also actively contribute to the voice community through my blog and my YouTube channel, where I have blog posts and YouTube videos centered on Alexa. I also enjoy playing chess, basketball, and reading books. So as you can see from the picture, I started out a little young. I was introduced to Scratch, an online block-based programming tool, when I was 7 years old by my dad. I was immediately hooked to the notion that dragging blocks around could make so many different possibilities and ideas a reality. Once I got comfortable with Scratch, I wanted to dive deeper into coding. For me, that meant starting to use Khan Academy, an online website that can teach you about many different topics through videos and interactive courses, including coding. Since then, I've also used websites like A Cloud Guru and Code Academy to learn more about more advanced topics like JavaScript, Node.js, and AWS. And these are the Alexa skills that I've developed. My first 2 were Kids Advice and Meal Buddy, and shortly after, I developed Wheel of Fun, which is a skill that gives you a random tidbit like a joke or a fact or a piece of advice. And then I developed my favorite skill, STEM Party, which is a math and science quiz skill, which allows kids to increase their knowledge of math and science in a fun and engaging way. And my most recent skill, Word Party, is actually a spelling game, and so you can spell along with Alexa. Let's say the chosen word is cat, then Alexa says C, then the user has to say A, and then Alexa says T and finishes off the word. So now let me talk about the difference between engagement and retention. Engagement measures how much time users spend with your skill, how many features they interact with, etc. And so your goal is to have high engagement in your skill. People come to your skill and they like your skill, so they spend time with it. Now, on the other hand, retention is about how often and how many users come back. And so once again, your goal is to have high retention. And so your goal would be to have all your users coming back on a daily basis. So now let me talk about how to make your Alexa skill more engaging. First up is Speech Synthesis Markup Language, or SSML. And you can use SSML in your output speech response to control how Alexa generates the speech. For example, you can add pauses and other speech effects and alterations. Here are a few examples of some tags. The first one is Amazon Effect, and through Amazon Effect, you can make Alexa sound as though she is whispering, which I think is very cool. Next up is Prosody, and Prosody is a really amazing tag because through Prosody, you can adjust the rate, pitch, and even the volume that Alexa speaks at. And finally, the break tag. The break tag is pretty simple. It allows you to add a break at any point for up to 10 seconds. However, it's definitely one of the more common and one of the more used tags because you can use it in a variety of skills. Next up is polyvoices. And so using just one voice, Alexa's voice, may feel a little bit limiting sometimes. And so then polyvoices are voices that you can use in your Alexa skill, and it helps make the skill more unique and exciting by speaking in a voice other than Alexa's. Here are a few examples of some polyvoices you can use. This is Sally's voice, or Russell's voice, or Matthew's voice. And you can even create your own polyvoices. And so I created this voice using some SSML, and I made it sound pretty similar to Darth Vader's voice. All right, and one really great use case for polyvoices would be if you have a skill that tells a story to a little kid. For example, you have a story about a knight and a princess and a villain, maybe. So then maybe you could have the villain speak in one voice, the princess speak in one voice, the knight speak in a different voice, and then have Alexa be the narrator. So there are many different possibilities for polyvoices. Next up is speech cons. And speech cons are special words and phrases that Alexa pronounces with more expression, with more emotion, and you can include these exclamations in your skills response using SSML. These are a few examples of some speech cons that you can use. And so there are plenty more speech cons that you can use, and these are just a few examples. As for me, I mainly use speech cons in my skill Wheel of Fun. And so whenever the user says yes, or meaning they want to spin again, they want to get another tidbit, then I say something like yay or magnificent. And if they say no or they try to end the skill, then I say darn or bummer to make it more engaging and lively for the user. Okay, another feature that you can use to make your skill more engaging is sound effects. And sound effects can be used in your Alexa skill to make it more interesting and appealing to users. Sound effects are very important everywhere, not in just Alexa. For example, take the hit game show Kaun Banega Crorepati. Could you imagine that show without any music or any sound effects? It definitely wouldn't be as big as it is today. And so it's the same with Alexa. Sound effects are also very important for Alexa skills. You have two options for using sound effects. Your first option is through the Alexa Skills Kit sound library, where Amazon has hosted a wide variety of sound effects that you can use in your code. And your other option is you can find your own MP3s, host it on, for example, Amazon S3, and then put them in your code that way. And finally, Alexa Presentation Language, or APL. And through APL, you can make a wide variety of really great screens for those users who have screen-based devices such as Echo Shows, Echo Spots, Echo Show 5s, etc. And so there are a few components that you can add. These include images, text, videos, and even touch wrapper or buttons in your skill. These are a few examples of some really nice APL screens. All right, so now we discussed how you can make your skills more engaging. Now let me share some tips on increasing your skills retention. There are three characteristics of good retention. First is friction. Your skill should have minimal friction, as little as possible. Next up is content. Your content should always be high quality content throughout your skill. And finally, trigger. Having a trigger mechanism in your skill will improve your skills retention. So first up, friction. Friction is any problems that users may encounter in your skill. Some examples of these would be functional errors, when Alexa says sorry, an error occurred. Invocation issues, if the user can't open your skill. Interaction model issues, if the user tries to say something, but your interaction model doesn't handle it. And even confusing language and responses could count as friction. When you are creating your skills responses and messaging, you should try to make it as casual and as informal as possible because, well, for one thing, your skill may be used by little kids, and so they might not understand if you use very complex words. And so it's always good to listen to your skill one time and see if the messaging is really great. Next up is high quality content. High quality content motivates users to use skills more frequently. Some examples of these would be pre-recorded messages by voice actors, also known as voiceovers, more content and recurrent content updates, so users always have fresh content relevant to users if possible, and also varying and dynamic prompts, so the skill doesn't sound too monotonous. And finally, triggers. Until users get into the habit of using an Alexa skill, they can often need a trigger to motivate them to use a skill. One example of this would be using reminders or notifications in your skill. Oftentimes, people are too busy to play your skill. They want to play your skill, but they just forget to, or sometimes they even forget the name of the skill. And so then reminders or notifications would help with all of these possible problems. Leaderboards. As for me, there are a lot of skills on Alexa that I don't really play. But if they added a leaderboard and a way for me to compete with my little brother, that's all I would really play. And also streaks. I used to do Duolingo to learn some Spanish, and after a little while I got bored of it. But I hung on for a really long time because I didn't want to lose that 20, 30 day plus streak that I had already acquired. And so because of that, Duolingo kept me, the customer, more for a longer period of time than they would have if it wasn't for the streaks. So a summary for what I've talked about today. In engagement, there's SSML tags, speech cons, polyvoices, sound effects, and also APL. Many great features that you can use to make your skill more engaging. And for retention, 3 good characteristics: minimal friction, high quality content, and also some sort of trigger mechanism. All right, and you can connect with me through LinkedIn, my website, or any other social media handle listed below. And I'll go ahead and take questions now. All right. Thank you, Pranav. I really appreciate the compliment. Can non-coders create Alexa skills? Yes, Amazon has created quite a few templates that you can use to create Alexa skills, and so you don't need to know coding. However, if you really want to create complex Alexa skills, then it would be good to know either JavaScript or Node.js or Python.
All right. If there are no more questions, maybe we can open the discussion tab, or Aariv, even you can open the discussion tab to check out if there are any questions.
Yes. I don't think there are any more questions.
Well, if there are no more questions, then well, we will we'll come to the end of your speech, Aariv. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we really appreciate it as well. Thank you so much. It's
Thank you.
great to have you over here. And you started this at a very young age, and you were able to adopt it so quickly. And this is something that it's whenever we try to do some things like this, it can be a little bit awkward. But the way you're able to just so seamlessly and naturally run through it it's incredible. And thank you for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers. Have a good day.
You too.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the session. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the session and the end of the Voice Tech Summit India. It was really great to have all of you with us over the course of the last 2 days. We are certain and positive that you have been able to gather so many interesting insights over the last 2 days from various different speakers from all over the world related to voice technology and how it can impact our lives and make our lives more efficient and much better. We look forward to hosting you again and seeing you again in our next initiative. We plan a much bigger initiative sometime later this year and even next year as well. This is only the first time a voice technology summit has been conducted in India, and it for sure will not be the last. And Yukon Media will be at the forefront of presenting voice technology summits in India and in fact all over the world. On behalf of the entire team at Yukon Media, we thank you so much for your attention, for your time, for your patronage, and to all of our speakers for sharing their knowledge, experience, and insights garnered over several years of experience. It has been a privilege and a pleasure to bring to you this entire summit. It's been a great experience working on the summit, and we hope that you have enjoyed it as much as we have enjoyed bringing it to you. On behalf of the entire team of Yukon Media, thank you so much once again, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, good night.